Hi guys, my name is Cadu Guariente and this is my channel Lado Rock KG or Lado Rock KG in Portuguese. This is the first time I decide to talk in English and I hope you understand because my accent. I hope that this conversation, this presentation about UriahHeep, the English band. Hope you understand a little better how I connect with the band since my childhood years. And it's for me a great honor to talk about my favorite band ever, besides other bands, obvious, like Kiss, like Purple, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Jethro Tull, and Uriah Heep always be different, always be a band that people normally criticizing very much because this band with weird harmonies. The people talk about Uriah Heep. This is a band with weird harmonies because the foundation of Uriah Heep since the beginning of Uriah Heep was the harmony band. Was different from bands like Led Zeppelin, Purple, and Black Sabbath because the band playing harmonies, didn't playing riffs like Rich Blackmore did, Tony Iommi did, Jimmy Page did all the time in all albums of these bands. Uriah Heep was formed in 1917 when two bands in England have kind of, niche working. One of these bands is called Spice with DavidByron on vocals and MickBox on guitars. And I have another other band called The Gods with KenHensley on keyboards and LeeKerslake on drums. But it's not the way that the band was forming. Uriah Heep was designed to be a vertical record band at the time with addiction of a session musician called Ken Hensley, who came from this band called The Gods. This band has various lineup. One of them was with Mick Taylor, I believe, who playing later with the Rolling Stones in 1973. And this band and the producer GerryBron, and GerryBron was starting producing this band in the studio in England. And the first album, very heavy, very humble, which is very good album for a starting band in 1970. The question is, my life with Uriah Heep was when I lived with my parents in a little town who make frontier between Brazil and Argentina. And in the city, we didn't have access to nothing, basically, because it's 70. We have only crystal radio with a long play, like automatic. And my brothers only more heavy rock kind of thing that he listen Alice Cooper. My cousins listen, all Purple albums, all Sabbath albums, all Yes albums, Genesis albums, and this behind me is most of the albums we collected. A very good collection of bands, the most classics like Beatles, Stones, Led Zeppelin, Jethro Tull, Uriah Heep. Most of Brazilian music like people from Europe, United States, like Caetano, Gil, Chico Buarque, Yolanda. We had something like Rita Lee Jones. That it's a Brazilian singer, Brazilian rock singer. I remember the day when my brothers bring at home an album, an Uriah Heep album called High and Mighty, 1975, I think, and was great album. Most of the people and critics considered this album the worst Uriah Heep album. But I have another opinion about High and Mighty. High and Mighty is a KenHensley solo album because at the time most of the band was involved in drugs, alcohol, and so many problems because the touring all over the world, Japan, Europe, Germany, United States, and the band when came home to England, they was exhausted by the touring, and KenHensley, who being alone on the studio, that's absolutely alone with the instruments. All you can imagine, you alone in the studio with piano, Hammond organ, timpanis, all the classical percussion, guitars, basses, and uh, John Wetton came on the band with the album Return to Fantasy. It was 75 2 album. It was the first collaboration of the future Asia John Wetton on Heep when he left King Crimson. Other one of my favorites prog rock bands too. And the band was very kind of fight between two sides, the spy side of the band and the God side of the band, because KenHensley has this idea that he brought his ideas to the band. He transformed Uriah Heep and laboratory for his ideas, for his playing and compositions. So this album has most of the significant and melodic parts, harmonic part of Uriah Heep work, because most of the people who focus on Demons and Wizards, Magician's Birthday, that this album, and Look at Yourself, because Look at Yourself is the best Uriah Heep album, in my opinion, today. This is a very, very good, heavy, and harmonic album. And MickBox and LeeKerslake, during the years, during his interviews, he's talking a lot about the Uriah Heep style, the harmonic style of Uriah Heep. They consider it was totally different from the other bands in England. It's very true, it's very sincere about this musical style. And during the golden years of Heep, I think that was 97-1 with Salisbury until High and Might in 75, the band has a unique style. The nucleus of Uriah Heep was DavidByron, MickBox, and the other side was KenHensley. The mix of them makes the golden era of Uriah Heep. DavidByron was fired from Uriah Heep from his problem with alcohol. And KenHensley, in a conversation with bass player, the purple bass player, RogerGlover, have a meeting, and he's talking about Uriah Heep was no vocalist, no lead singer, and RogerGlover said, "Wow, we have this guy from this band called LucifersFriends, called JohnLawton. He was a very good singer, and he was sing with a choral group, like gospel group, called the LesHumphreysSingers. And the LesHumphreysSingers had an English producer, but the group, the choral, who work in Germany. And JohnLawton make his career with this group, this gospel group. He was very famous in German. And he also make part of this band, LucifersFriends, from Germany. And I think that RogerGlover was producing at the time, and indicates to KenHensley. And the album Firefly is a very, very good album, because he makes a regular, normal UriahHeep album with addition to JohnLawton vocals. And that's changed everything, because he has bluesy kind of style, very different to the operistic voice from Byron. You know, Byron is more like metal vocalist. It's, for me, most of the great heavy metal vocalists like Bruce Dickinson, Rob Halford, was inspired in DavidByron vocals, because DavidByron is a great singer, and JohnLawton was a good and very, very good singer too. Besides this album from 1976, Firefly, which is a good album, Innocent Victim has like a very good album, but it seems it's not Uriah Heep album. It's not Uriah Heep. Uriah Heep is not there. It's another band. Uriah Heep changed, absolutely changed. You know, examples of that. Abominog, 1981, he's changed completely Uriah Heep sound, because KenHensley was not there anymore in 1981. LeeKerslake was playing with OzzyOsbourne in BlizzardofOzz, and bring Bob Daisley, the bass player, for Uriah Heep. So Uriah Heep changed for a metal band, hard rock band, very like American hard rock band. From Abominog, Head First, and Rockarama, PeterGoalby was the vocalist, was the singer. Very great singer from the band Trapeze. Well, who is Trapeze? The band that bring GleenHughes. Purple knows GleenHughes because Trapeze. And the other singer before Glenn was PeterGoalby in middle 70s. And PeterGoalby was a very hard rock, very good hard rock singer. But it's another band. PeterGoalby was fired, and two guys from a band called Grand Prix. This band was a hard rock band, former BernieShaw, Canadian singer, very good singer, hard rock singer, PhilLanzon on keyboards. So the band changed again. It's another sound, it's another composition, it's another arrangement, all change. So most of the people stop in this scene, because most of the people focus ever in the golden era, or Uriah Heep golden era, that is 1970 until 1975, 1976. And the band had changed a lot. A lot of public, old fans coming again in the shows in Brazil, for example, Argentina, and South America. And the band today is a very, very famous heavy metal band, hard rock band, who share the stage worldwide with metal bands, like melodic metal bands, with black metal bands, and almost underground band today, Uriah Heep, but he's very, very, very respected in the scene, in the musical rock scene in Europe, in the United States, Canada, South America, Asia. So when you have a band that passing 50 years old of history with 25 albums, that's impossible not to realize that this band is still forever. He had his name on the rock history, on the rock scene of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the millennium. So, millennium boys, millennium girls, listen Uriah Heep today and listen to old albums. So, for me, it's a very good thing because Uriah Heep teach other people to listen good music. The new drummer, RusselGillbrook, was very, very good drummer. Has that metal heaviness, double bass drum kind of feel, and he plays like Lee when necessary, but he play uh, on your own style, So that's it. I hope that you understand what I'm talking about. I talk a little bit about one of my favorite bands, but Uriah Heep today is my favorite ever. Uh, Not because the changing, not because the great musicians, but because Statement is a heavy rock band. The last thing I'll talk about it's did you ever see Uriah Heep cover band? Response me here. Did you ever see? Send me a link because I never saw Uriah Heep cover band. Okay, so if you make part of Uriah Heep cover band, send me the link because I make sure to put your video on my channel. Kisses to everybody and thank you for all the people who sharing our videos, who subscribe in our channel. Valeu!